I don't talk about that night anymore. Every October, our fair hosts the corridor of screams, a cheap, haunted house full of plastic skeletons and fake fog. Last Halloween, my friends and I went for fun. Lucas, Erin, Jonah, and me. We laughed as we entered, paying $10 each. The door shut behind us with a loud clunk. The air turned cold. That was when the fun ended. The first few rooms were typical. Plastic coffins that rattled. A fake butcher holding a rubber cleaver. But then, about halfway through, we came to a door that looked different. It wasn't painted plywood like the rest. It was old, heavy, with a brass handle, worn dull by age. It didn't fit the set. It looked real, probably part of the new section, Jonah said, smirking. They upgrade every year. He tried the handle. It opened easily. Beyond it wasn't another cheap set with red lights and fake fog. It was a hallway, a real one. Wallpaper peeled at the corners, and a faint, sour smell hung in the air. The floorboards creaked underfoot, and the temperature dropped so fast I could see my breath. Okay, this is creepy, Erin said, half laughing. Are we even supposed to be here? Probably just the advanced section, Lucas muttered, but his voice trembled. We stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind us. When I turned to check, the handle was gone. Just smooth wood. Jonah, I said, try to find a switch or something. Maybe it's part of the scare. He aimed his flashlight around. The beam caught dust swirling in the air. There were framed pictures on the walls, old black and white photographs. But the faces were all scratched out. Just bodies, in outdated clothing, standing stiffly, their heads torn away. That was the moment I realized this wasn't part of any attraction. We walked further, trying doors along the hallway, but each one opened into rooms that shouldn't have existed. A kitchen, with rotting food still on the table. A bathroom, where the water in the sink was black and still dripping. The smell grew stronger, the deeper we went. Something like mold, mixed with something metallic. Erin was shaking now. Let's just go back. There has to be another way out. But when we turned around, the hallway behind us had changed. The walls were closer together. The light was dimmer, and the door we'd come through was gone completely. Jonah tried to joke, said it was a prank, some elaborate escape room. But even he didn't believe it. The silence pressed in on us like a weight. That's when the first door opened on its own. It creaked slowly, and a faint yellow light spilled out. Inside was a small bedroom. The wallpaper was the same pale blue as my old room growing up. My stomach dropped when I saw the desk by the window, the exact same one I'd had as a kid. On the bed sat a boy. Me. He was maybe 10, wearing my old red hoodie. His face was buried in his hands. Shoulders shaking. I felt something twist in my chest. No, I whispered. The others stared at me, confused. The boy lifted his head. Tears streaked his cheeks. Why didn't you stop it? He said. His voice was mine, but smaller, broken. Suddenly, I knew where we were. I knew what memory this was. The day my father hit my mother for the first time. I'd hidden in my room and done nothing. The room flickered, and the sound of yelling filled the air, his voice. Her cries. The slam of a door. I couldn't breathe. The others called my name, but I couldn't move. The walls were closing in, and the boy on the bed was screaming now, begging me to do something. When I finally stumbled out, the door slammed shut behind me. The hallway looked the same, but Lucas, Erin, and Jonah were staring at me with wide, terrified eyes. "What the hell was that?" Jonah said. I don't know," I gasped. "Let's just keep moving." But as we went on, it became clear that the house wasn't just showing my past. The next door, it opened to a hospital room. Machines beeped steadily, the smell of antiseptic thick in the air. On the bed lay a woman, his mother. I'd been there. When she died, Lucas had been the one holding her hand, whispering that he'd be fine. But now, she turned her head toward him. "You lied," she said softly. "You said you'd visit." Lucas fell to his knees, shaking his head. The machines began to flatline. The light flickered again and again until the sound became unbearable. We found a staircase eventually, leading down into the dark. Erin refused to go, but there was nowhere else to turn. The steps groaned under our weight, and halfway down, Jonah froze. A faint sound came from below like laughter. Childish, high-pitched, echoing off the walls. "Kids?" he whispered. No one answered. At the bottom, there was a single door. It was painted red, unlike the rest. A faint heartbeat thudded behind it, in sync with my own. "I'm not going in there," Erin said. "I'm done." Jonah grabbed the handle. "We can't just stay here." The door swung open. Inside was a room full of mirrors, tall, cracked, warped by age. At first, we just saw our reflections, pale and terrified. But then, they began to move on their own. My reflections smiled when I didn't. Lucas's lifted a hand, even though he stood frozen. Erin's turned away, whispering something we couldn't hear. And Jonah's stepped out. It reached through the glass, took his hand, and pulled him inside. He didn't even scream. The mirror rippled once, then stilled. Only our reflections remained 3 instead of 4. That broke Erin completely. She ran. I yelled after her, but she vanished into the dark. Lucas and I tried to follow, but the hallway twisted again, folding in on itself until it was unrecognizable. The floorboards pulsed faintly, as if breathing. We found her later, or what was left of her. She was sitting in a corner, whispering to someone who wasn't there. When I touched her shoulder, she looked at me with blank, glassy eyes. Her mouth opened, but only one word came out. "Stay." We left her there. I don't know if she's still alive. Eventually, Lucas and I reached another door. The last one. It looked just like the first. Heavy wood, brass handle. But this time, there was a note pinned to it. The paper was yellowed, the handwriting neat. Each room feeds on memory. Each memory takes what it needs. Only one leaves. I turned to Lucas. He was pale, trembling, eyes distant. "You go," he said quietly. "You've got more to live for. Don't do that," I told him. "We both can make it." But he shook his head. "I can feel it. It wants one of us. I don't know why, but I believed him. I think the house knew too, because as soon as I reached for the handle, the walls started to hum. The air grew heavy, pressing down until I could barely stand. Lucas stepped back, and for a moment, I thought I saw the shadow of his mother behind him, smiling. Then he pushed me through the door. I fell forward, hitting the ground hard. When I looked up, I was outside the fairground again. The haunted house stood silent behind me, the lights still flashing, people laughing as they entered, but there was no sign of Lucas. I tried to go back in, but the staff stopped me. They said that area was closed, that no one by his name had ever bought a ticket. When I showed them my wristband, it was blank. I didn't sleep for weeks after that. When the police searched the attraction,